life is full.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes,
Congratulations.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go ahead and open up the Community Development Agency meeting and call it to order. Again, the time is 7 o'clock. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the back wall next to the agendas. This time we'll have roll call for the Community Development Agency meeting.
Eight members present, Mayor.
Item 1 is Resolution 2025-004, amending the Downtown Redevelopment Plan. We'll have staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the CDA. Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. Before you this evening, you have 3 items. You have an update to our downtown redevelopment plan, a redevelopment project, and then a redevelopment agreement. Michael's going to pull up the PowerPoint that I've put together to talk about the redevelopment plan itself. So the impetus to update the North Downtown and the total downtown redevelopment plan comes from several factors. Several years ago, we had a bond vote for a joint public the Sheriff, Police Department, and 911 that failed. Originally, that was thought about going out at the tech park, but there was strong political desire to have that remain in the downtown area. We looked at a number of potential redevelopment sites for that and studied the existing building again. In 2022, we updated our comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan talked about a lot of changes for the downtown sub-area and a vision for its future. And it identified potential redevelopment catalyst sites, particularly in the area of Military. The Creative District was underway and becoming certified, and Parks and Rec was in the process of updating their master plan. So, downtown redevelopment plan, the purposes overall under state statute are to eliminate the spread of blight, encourage rehabilitation, to provide for redevelopment of a blighted and substandard area, undertake activities to remove blight and substandard areas. It allows redevelopment projects to access tax increment financing, and it opens up opportunities for grants that may not otherwise be available to us. So the update includes elements that are required by state statute, which are to incorporate a land use plan. It expands the redevelopment area to match the blighted and substandard area that we updated about a year ago in April. It addresses the population densities, land coverage, building intensities. It addresses changes to street layouts. It contains a site plan, and it addresses public facilities that are needed for the area after redevelopment. So the 2022 comprehensive plan, if you recall, it showed functional sub areas for the downtown, and it showed in that teal area, the North Downtown area, and in the yellow box that's outlined in the teal area, a catalyst site for redevelopment. The downtown or the comprehensive plan also included an urban design framework for the entire downtown area, looking at edges and connections and gateways, parking lot screening, and connections throughout the entire area. One of the big ideas was to try and connect the north side of Military with the south side of Military and tie in John C. Fremont Park. So the next slide zooms in on that catalyst site. We've looked at for the police station in particular, we looked at redeveloping the existing police station. We evaluated the site that is just on the north side between Park and Main Street, and then the Catalyst site itself. The existing police station just isn't in a position to be rehabbed. We did not have willing sellers on the site between Park and Main, and we did have a willing seller and a partner on the Catalyst site itself, which will be the next item on the redevelopment project itself. So this is the area of the blight and substandard designation in 2024, which is also the same as our redevelopment area in this updated redevelopment plan. About a year and a half ago, we did a more in-depth study of the area. We did a fit analysis for the police facility, and we looked at both of the sites, as you see here. And then we did a visioning process. We had a small group of constituents. It included administrative staff, myself, Parks and Rec Director, Angie Olson, and bank representatives and our design firm. So throughout this process, we developed in more detail a vision for the area. We had conceptual drawings. We looked at ideas to tie all of the components together. Next slide. Again, connections, connecting the north and south, ideas of Gateway Promenade, how we connect the creative district, how we create the park. So this isn't just about a bank. It's not just about a police station. It's about the entire downtown area, revitalizing the area, and how we connect the north and south together. So from that, we came up with a preliminary design concept, which you can see ideas, very conceptual ideas for John C. Fremont Park. It includes a promenade, an area along 8th Street where you can have food trucks instead of having food trucks throughout the park, a connection along Park Street. So we have a terminus on Park Street so you can see the park from Park Street. Park Street could potentially be closed down for festivals. It includes opportunities for redevelopment on the existing police site, for the site where we looked at initially. And then we looked a little bit more specifically at how a police building and a bank building could fit on this site together. And then this is our final design concept. Key components of this concept include the concepts for elevated intersections and decorated intersections. Those will help bring the street up to the sidewalk level at the intersection so it can slow down traffic and make pedestrians feel more comfortable crossing the street. An idea for an artist alleyway to bring the creativity in the creative district to the north and tying in the park as well. The police station, if you might remember, initially, we initially thought, oh, that would probably go on the east side of the block. Well, through the process, as we looked at it, it really fits better on that north side of the block, and it creates an opportunity to overlook or have eyes on the park as well to help people feel more comfortable and secure. So here are some images. They're just conceptual images that help you give an idea of what we had in mind as we developed this vision for downtown, for the downtown redevelopment plan. A lot of activity on the street, high quality street furnishings, landscaping, festivals and tents, food trucks. Again, bringing the idea of creativity into the area are key elements of this downtown redevelopment plan. And then some concepts that look more specifically at the police station site and at the park or at the bank building site. So throughout this process, we worked very closely with our partners, with the bank, with the police station, with other groups within city government, We shared our ideas with the neighbors in the area. We've had a lot of support for this. I think if you look at the last two slides, or last three slides, which show images of the bank building and the police station, you'll see that the concepts blend very well together. I think the buildings will be very compatible with each other, but it doesn't stop here. It's not just about the bank and the police station. Because of this process and because of the creative district and coordinating together, we were able to get a grant for an amphitheater for John C. Fremont Park. Nick has done a really great job updating the master plan for the park. And I think those are some of the very last slides. And his phasing for the park includes that amphitheater, a restroom building, and then future phases that start to incorporate those elements that we talked about and put together in our initial visioning. So that's the purpose of putting together a redevelopment plan, is bringing different components like that together. This is just the start of the whole process. I think you'll see that this is going to really catalyze development in that area, particularly as construction gets underway, and then we're able to look at redeveloping the police station site in the future. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Jennifer. Are there any questions from the council on the redevelopment plan? Councilwoman Ganem?
No, I was just going to ask, is there a projected date for RVR to be completed, and just to share that information?
Any other questions from the council? Thank you very much. I'll now open the public hearing on this item. Are there any comments from the public for the downtown redevelopment plan? Okay, are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion on resolution 2025-004.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 2 is resolution 2025-005, authorizing an amendment to the redevelopment project to implement the RVR Bank redevelopment project. We'll have staff report on this item.
Good evening again, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. This is an amendment to the redevelopment plan for the specific RVR Bank project. So we have the broad concept of the redevelopment plan, and then as projects come forward, we amend the plan to incorporate the project in it. So that's this process, and I'll let you talk about the particulars.
All right, perfect. Good evening. My name is Allison Bohr. I'm with Klein Williams Law Firm located in Lincoln. My firm is acting as TIF counsel to RVR Bank, and we prepare both the redevelopment plan amendment and the redevelopment agreement. And as Jennifer said, this process of amending the redevelopment plan is what allows the city to utilize tax increment financing for a specific project. So we need to incorporate it into the plan in order to authorize the use of TIF. So you've seen the renderings, you're familiar with the project and the site. So I'm going to provide more of the specifics on the request for tax increment financing, and then I'll be available to answer any questions that you have about those documents. So as you know, the project is the development of RVR Bank's new location, but this site has particular challenges in that it required significant site work and upfront costs to get the site into a shovel-ready condition for development. So far, those costs associated with tearing down the blighted structures that were on the site and removing the footings and doing the fill and dirt work have been nearly $440,000. So redeveloper is requesting $268,000 in TIF indebtedness to assist with those costs. Now, there is a separate agreement contained in the purchase agreement between the city and RVR Bank for the city to pay for 30% of these costs up to $160,000. So 30% of that $440,000 equates to approximately $132,000, leaving $308,000 of those costs still remaining. So the TIF is going to help defray a majority of those costs still remaining, but not completely eliminate that cost to the developer. So this assistance is going to make the project as designed economically feasible and allow for this project to take place in this area. As you know, RVR Bank is making a substantial investment in the community with this project, with total project costs being estimated at approximately $5 million. This project includes specific design elements that are going to directly benefit the public, and you saw some of those, such as a large community room that'll be available for meetings and events, and a pedestrian plaza. Those design elements would not be possible without the use of TIF to assist with the cost of the site work. The TIF request of $208,000 was based on a projected taxable value of the project site at completion of $2 million, which would result in an increase in the taxable value of the site of approximately $1.8 million. So the way TIF works, the tax on that $1.8 million of new incremental value is the TIF that then gets captured for a period of 15 years and then used by the CDA to make payments to the redeveloper on a TIF note that gets issued from the CDA to the redeveloper. So the projected annual TIF amount is estimated to be $28,190. So that's your using your current tax levy and the taxes that would be generated on $1.8 million essentially. So over 15 years, that's approximately $422,850. And then we calculate the present value of that TIF revenue stream using a 6.5% interest rate, which is how we get down to the $268,000 TIF indebtedness figure. It's customary for TIF notes to be issued with interest, and right now, I think the range that we're seeing is anywhere from 6% to 7% on interest rates. So the plan is to start construction this spring on the bank building and finish construction in the spring of 2026. So based on that timeline, we would expect to see an increase in the valuation of the property with the 2026 assessed valuations, and we would start the division of taxes with the 2026 tax year. So those are your 2026 taxes that get paid in 2027. If the project is approved, the CDA and RVR Bank would enter into a redevelopment agreement, which covers their obligations and implements the redevelopment project from the TIF side of things. The CDA's primary obligation in all of this is to issue a TIF note to RVR Bank in the principal amount of $268,000 at a 6.5% interest rate, and to pass through the TIF to the redeveloper. The form of that TIF note is attached to the redevelopment agreement. It's Exhibit D. And a reminder to the members of the CDA that this TIF note is not a general obligation of the CDA or the city, and the only source of payment on the note is the TIF. So if the valuation comes in lower than $2 million, or just lower than expected, or there's a partial valuation in the first year, the redeveloper just gets less TIF in that. There's no makeup. They're responsible for that shortfall. RVR Bank's primary obligations under that agreement are to construct the project, and then they're required to certify at least $268,000 of TIF eligible expenses to the CDA. So that would not include the cost that would be reimbursed by the city under that separate agreement. So redeveloper would not be getting reimbursed for the same cost twice. Overall, we feel this is a great project with a thoughtful design that will revitalize downtown and benefit the community. This project, in combination with the city's police station and 911 center on this city block, will serve as a catalyst for additional development in the area, as Jennifer stated. And we believe this is a prime example of what TIF is designed for, to eliminate the blighted conditions on a site so that redevelopment. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions from the council? Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation on the calculation. That helped. I was trying to wade through that, and I missed a few nuances of that, so I appreciate that. So the original assessed value of the land versus the 2161 in the purchase price, is that basically a calculation on the 1.8 million increase in the value of the property? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself to the next item.
So let me restate your question. Are you asking, is the $1.8 million based on the purchase price that was agreed on between the
What I
city
was
and-
looking at, and this isn't challenging the agreement or the plan or
Mhm.
whatever as much as it is just for my own education. But the original assessed values were somewhere around 450 to 6.25 a square foot. And now at the point of purchase, they're up to about 21 in that area. So just,
Mhm.
I think I understand why that happened, but just can you
Yeah.
give me the
Yeah, and I mean,
rationale?
for TIF purposes, when we're looking at the base valuation of the land, so we're looking at post subdivision, we're looking at just the bank section, and then we're looking at just the land as it is cleared off. And then what we did is we used a per square foot valuation of the land of 6.25 per square foot, and that's how we got to our base valuation. And that was an estimate. It's just a projection based on comps in the area and other land values that we're seeing, based on what we think the assessor is going to do. But ultimately, the assessor is going to have the final say.
So the 2161 purchase price was base market value, or,
Correct.
okay. So that the $1.8 million wasn't necessarily used to derive that number. It was
No, it was not. And that, so the $1.8 million is the incremental value. So how we got to
Right.
the $2 million, I'll explain the $2 million final value. We got to that number by taking 65% of the building cost, the actual cost to build the physical bank building structure, which is approximately $3.1 million for like hard construction costs. And we took 65% of that to back into that number of 2 million. Again, that's just a projection, but I think it's a conservative one. On other projects, try to capture 80% of total hard costs. And so I think we're trying to be conservative on the 2 million.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Don't see any. I'll now open the public hearing on this item. Okay, seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion to authorize the amendment to the redevelopment project for RVR Bank redevelopment. Councilman Vaughn.
So moved.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second. That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 3 is resolution 2025-006, authorizing the use of tax increment financing for the RVR Bank redevelopment agreement. Do you have any additional staff report for this? Go ahead, Jody.
I'm not sure what Jody Sanders, City Administrator. I don't know how I would add much to what Jennifer and Allison have already presented. But what you have before you is the request to allow for the tax increment financing.
Are there any additional questions from the council regarding this item? I'll open the public, Councilman Von Buren, go
No,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Again, this is just for my education. I talked to Travis a little bit today, and I was just trying to understand the concept of tiffing all the costs of redevelopment back into a single lot. And I understand that that's the way it's done. I was wondering if I could just get an explanation, just primarily for my own information, just like to understand that, rather than, well, go ahead. I don't know if that's clear or not.
I think I understand the question. So I think the question is how can we use the TIF from one site to pay for costs elsewhere? I mean, I would say that that's done frequently, as long as the as long as the improvements are happening in the redevelopment area in a blighted and substandard area, it's allowed. And in our redevelopment plan, we defined our project site to cover the entire city block. And then we were specific that we would only divide taxes then on the bank's property. So I think we've laid it all out in the redevelopment plan, and it is permissible to do that, and we frequently do that.
That's fine. That was just my own understanding. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions from the council? Okay, I'll now open the public hearing on this item.
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. Very much appreciate some of the information that's been shared with the council and the public. But I would like to follow up, and I would hope that someone would follow up and get some additional clarification from the applicant with regards to the discussion that was had on the last item and this one about the $440,000 demo costs, and the fact that the city is covering 30% of that cost. So you would reduce that amount associated with that. When looking at schedule or exhibit C in this item, I see the calculations in here with regards to the total TIF at 422,848. And then, there's a present value calculation for associated with the indebtedness. Down below, there is a listing of $605,000 of TIF uses. There, that's listed as site preparation, demo, and grading. And I'm wondering if that's in addition to the $440,000 that was discussed before, separate from, if that covers the whole project site, which is the whole block, or if it's just for the bank lot number one that's actually being built with bank facility. Those were some vagaries, I guess, in my concerns with regards to understanding what's going on, because it wasn't clear to me in the original documentation whether the project site could cover the whole block. I appreciate getting clarity on the fact that the project site can be included in the cost of lot 2 with regards to the TIF. So that helps clarify some of that. But some of the numbers that were discussed just a moment ago don't totally sync up with Exhibit C, which is what you're approving here. And I'm wondering if some clarity can be ascertained with regards to that. One of my observations that I made in regards to this that is with, and Councilmember Von Baron touched on this, there's 3 components in the purchase agreement for the city's portion of Lot 2 that's happening here, adjacent to what's going on relative to all of these redevelopment plan and TIF applications. And that's $1,074,000 for the property, $132,000 or $160,000 for our share of demo. And then there's the additional square footage that's being added at the $21, I think the Councilmember Von Baron was looking at, which is going to push the city's lot probably to $1.3 million or so for 1 acre. I just wondered, how that's going to be looked at when you see it. I know that we don't have an assessor because value on the city's property because we're a public entity. But if that was a private entity, that property on the whole block was listed probably at less than $250,000 worth of assessed tax value. And now both properties theoretically would be assessed over $3 million for a lot. I'm just curious if they have some explanation that goes along with how that elevated the property land value for that block exponentially. Might be interesting for the council and for the public to hear. Thanks.
Any additional comments from the public? Okay, any additional comments from council? There are none. I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2025-006.
Councilman Horner,
I'll second.
please vote.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
I would take a motion to adjourn the Community Development Agency meeting. Councilman Jensen,
So moved.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
That motion carries 8-0.
We are adjourned. I'll go ahead and open up the city council regular meeting and call it to order. Time is 7:29. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the back wall next to the agendas. This time we'll have roll call for the city council regular meeting.
8 members present.
I don't have any specific comments tonight, so we'll move on to item 1, which is a motion to adopt the current agenda for the March 11th, 2025 regular meeting. Councilman Horner.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Councilman Vaughn.
I will second.
Do we have a motion from this? Do we have a change from the city that we need to make?
Yes,
Go ahead, Councilman Sucrum.
thought I hit the button early.
Okay.
I was wondering if we could move items 19 and 20 up underneath public hearings, underneath number 2.
Okay,
That's my motion.
okay, motion, go back, motion to approve the agenda with 19 and 20 being under public hearings. I would take a motion in regards to that change. Okay, Councilman Sucrum, you make that motion?
I did.
Is there a second, Councilman Ganem?
Second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay. Now we'll move on to public hearings. Item 2 is resolution 2025-055, authorizing a conditional use permit for RVR Bank.
Evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. This is a request for a conditional use permit because the bank is a drive-through bank. So it's the drive-through element that's requiring the conditional use permit. This does meet all of the requirements of the UDC. The Planning Commission recommended approval 5-0 at their February 17th Planning Commission meeting. Essentially, the site design falls in line with this plan that we just adopted and with the comprehensive plan. The drive-through lanes are tucked in the back so that they're not visible from Military Avenue. It provides that sense then of a street wall. It has the 2-story height that we have talked about in the redevelopment plan and in the comprehensive plan. There will be a nice open community room in the front. And again, the drive-through lanes are tucked in the back. There'll be one-way traffic through the site to create or remove any conflicts that there would be on Military Avenue. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff on this item? Okay. We'll now open the public hearing on this item.
Members of council, my name is David Mitchell, 81 West 5th Street here, representing RVR Bank. We'd just simply like to thank the planning department for the thorough review that it's done with this and the collaboration that we've had with the city from the very beginning. This has been a great partnership. Looking forward to closing on the property and getting bids out and getting busy with things. We hired a great architectural firm that's laid out a wonderful site plan here. We appreciate the approval of the Planning Commission, appreciate the recommendation of approval by the planning department, and here to answer any questions that we can for you as far as what's laid out in the conditional use permit or anything else that you'd like to visit about for that matter.
Thank you. Would there be any questions for the applicant from the council? Councilman Horner?
Not so much of a question, just a general comment. I'm excited to see it get started too. I think we've been talking about it long enough, so it's going to be really fun to see something more than just a empty lot now.
One thing I'd add to that, Councilman Horner, Jennifer mentioned the community room, as that kind of relates to our TIF to some extent. As a bank board at one of our bank meetings, when we were in the planning process, we were appreciative of the fact that within the purchase agreement and in our initial discussions that we all recognize that the project tonight would be somewhat of a community TIF in terms of developing this whole catalyst site. So our board, when we were discussing the project, thought, you know, we've got a downtown location. We don't have a community room. Initially, we were thinking, what do we need to really build there? We're going to just renovate the old facility, shine it up a little bit, put some lipstick on it, so to speak, and operate that as a branch and see how things evolved. And then as the energy started generating with this whole project, in particular, as a result of your mayor reaching out to us and lots of discussions that got us to this point, we thought, you know, this is more than a branch. We want to, you know, contribute to the downtown. We want to contribute to the community. So what can we do? And the community room aspect came up from creating a little hub or a collaboration opportunity for nonprofits, business groups, anyone who wanted to use it to collaborate, create, dream, plan, possibly invest further in the community. So, you know, we've got a boardroom and an education center and room out on 23rd Street, but really didn't have anything here. So this project that began with $1.5 million of budgeted cost that we thought originally, pretty soon grew ultimately to this $5 million tag, and $1 million of that, if you can believe that, is part of this community room that we feel is important. Now, you put metrics to that. You can't put metrics to a community room any more than you can to an airport, but you know it makes a difference. You know, if you don't have that airport here, nobody's going to invest in this community as far as a new business if they need to get in and out. But same analogy here. A community center, you can't put metrics to it, but we know it's going to be used. We know it's going to be appreciated. We know it's a way that we can give back to the community. So we thought if we're getting some grace from the city in terms of assistance in tearing down that old building through tax increment financing with deferred taxes that probably you wouldn't see on that property anyway, but for this development, how can we return that? Well, for your $228,000 investment, you're going to get about $1 million back to the community. So wanted to address that. I know it doesn't really relate to the conditional use permit, but wanted to take an opportunity to tout a little bit about what we're doing, and it wouldn't be happening without all of you folks and great leadership getting us to this point. So thank you.
Any other comments from the public? We'll now close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council on the conditional use permit? Councilman Sukram.
There's no other comments. I'll make a motion.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I'll second.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 19 is resolution 2025-058, amending the downtown redevelopment plan. We heard our presentation from Jennifer Dam early on in the CDA meeting talking about the downtown redevelopment plan. I will just add, as this was a very long-term thought through process, as you saw from her presentation dating back a couple of years ago, as we were looking at how this area could redevelop and how this site could be a catalyst site for our downtown. So I am just really proud of the work that went in and the collaboration with the community and the thought. And you know, you gotta have a vision at the end of the day. And I think that's what we have here. And this site with the bank and the police station will help start that vision in for this area and make a great connection from north to south down our downtown area. And thank Jennifer and her work, bringing of people together and including all the work that's being done. It's just it's been great to get to this point. So I'll just add that as part of your presentation. So thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the council on, again, number 19, which would be the amending the downtown redevelopment plan? I'll now open the public hearing on this item. Is Seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council on this? Councilman Horner.
No, Mayor, if there are no additional comments, I was just gonna make the motion that we, pass resolution 2025-058.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
And now item 20 is resolution 2025-059, authorizing the amendment to the redevelopment project to implement the RVR Bank redevelopment project. Again, we heard the presentation regarding this item, and this is amending the plan to include the RVR Bank development. Are there any additional comments or questions from the council? I'll now open the public hearing on this item. Seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion on 2025-059.
Councilwoman Lathrop,
Second.
please vote.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We'll now move on to the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Council or staff? Councilman Horner.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to remove item number 8.
Okay. Councilwoman Ganem.
Number 11.
Okay. Are there any items from the public to be removed? Okay, seeing no other items, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 3 through 7, 9, 10, and 12. Councilman Jensen.
I will make that motion.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 8 is a motion to receive the LB 840 quarterly report. Now we'll have our report from Angie Olson.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Angie Olson, Plan Administrator. This is the Local Option Economic Development Fund quarterly report. So it goes to the Citizens Advisory Review Committee and then to council each quarter. We did not have a quorum and did not meet in February with the Citizens Advisory Review Committee, but I did send them the report and ask them to send me any comments if they had any. I did not get any from them, but this is a summary of how the projects are performing and where we're at with the variety of projects that have received funding in the past, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Questions? Councilman Horner.
Thanks, Angie. I have no questions about the report. It's fine. I just wanted to pull it from the consent agenda because I just felt that with the one item on there from the White Lotus Group, that there might be others who, had questions about that of their own. I don't think there's actually much to be discussed there at the time. I mean, we've got a notice here on the deal that the default letter has been issued, and that's pretty much it. It's in process, but that's the only reason that I wanted the report pulled.
Elections process, and so any specifics are confidential at this point.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Are there any comments from the public on this item? Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion to receive the LB 840 quarterly report. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to receive the LB 840 quarterly report.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Please vote.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 11 is resolution 2025-052, authorizing the mayor to sign the centrifuge maintenance agreement in the amount of $319,089 over 3 years. I'll have staff report from Jeff Shanahan.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility Manager. We went out for bids for, we have 3 centrifuges at the wastewater treatment plant. We went out for bids with those. We received a bid and GEA is the original equipment manufacturer. They're going to replace bearings, seals, check clearances, just do preventive maintenance. There's 3 of these, so we're going to do 1 a year. They're budgeted items. And be happy to take any questions.
Questions?
No
Councilwoman
questions,
Ganem?
thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any comments from the public on this item? Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram,
I'll make that motion.
Councilwoman Ganem,
Second,
please vote.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
All right, now moving on to unfinished business is item 13, ordinance 5706 for the approval of the government salary ordinance. This would be for third and final reading. Staff report.
This is the third reading for the government salary ordinance, which would provide for a 2.5% increase effective April 6th for all non-union and AFSCME bargaining unit members. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for staff on this item? I'm not seeing any. Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Are there any additional comments from council? If none, I would take a motion to hold third and final reading the government salary ordinance. Councilman Sukram.
Make that motion on ordinance 5706.
Councilman Vaughn.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We'll now have third and final reading.
Ordinance number 5706, an ordinance of the City of Fremont, Nebraska pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number 5690 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication in pamphlet form and providing for an effective date. Third read.
Cast your final vote on this ordinance. There we go.
That ordinance passes 8-0, Mayor.
Now move on to item 14 is ordinance 5707 for the approval of the utility salary ordinance, and we'll have staff report. Again, this is third and final reading.
Jennifer McDuffie, Director of Human Resources. Again, third reading for the utility side for the 2.5% effective April 6th. This would be for all utility staff. Third reading. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Are there any additional questions for staff on this? Are there any comments from the public? Are there any additional comments from council? If none, I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to hold third and final reading, no ordinance 5707.
Councilwoman Ganem.
second,
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Of third and final reading.
Ordinance number 5707, an ordinance of the City of Fremont, Nebraska pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number 5689 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication in pamphlet form and providing for an effective date. Third read.
Get it ready here. We'll cast our final vote on this ordinance. 5707.
That ordinance passes 8-0, Mayor.
We'll now move on to new business. Item 15 is a motion to receive the 2024 Fremont Fire Department Annual Report. We have Chief Burt here. Lots to talk about, Chief. There we go.
Todd Burnt, Fire Chief. We have it in front of you is the 2024 Annual Fire Department Report. I'll give you a brief overview, then if you have any questions afterwards, I'll be more than happy to answer them. 2024 was our busiest year yet. We ended up with 4,086 total emergencies. This is actually a little bit over a 4% increase from 2023. That comes to about 11.19 runs a day, 10.17 EMS calls a day, and 1.02 fire calls today, each day. Our EMS response, we had 3,711 medical runs, which include 189 motor vehicle accidents and 29 ALS intercepts. That was about a 3.31 increase in medical runs from the previous year. The 29 ALS intercepts, we have agreements with a lot of the surrounding fire departments that are basic life support. If they have an incident where they have a patient that needs advanced life support, such as IVs, medications, they'll actually call for us and we'll actually respond in our pickup chaser, and we'll meet them en route. And actually our paramedics, we get in back of their ambulance with some of our gear and finish patient care on the way to the hospital. So that's what a ALS intercept is. We had 3,826 patient contacts. That's an increase of a little bit over 2%. Average patient age was 61 years old. That's pretty much the last couple of years stayed about that age. From 2010, the average patient age was 55.5 years old. So it's gone up since 2010. Our top EMS emergencies were falls. We had 929, medical transport, 699, traffic accidents, 491, difficulty breathing, 331, cardiac issues was 189, and calls where patients were unresponsive was 186. 19% of our patient contacts were advanced life support. That's starting IVs, given medications and advanced medications. 51% were basic life support. 30% were patient refusals. Also with patient refusals, we also do such as diabetics, asthma patients, where we'll show up and we'll give them, start an IV, give them medication. And a lot of times that's when patients actually improve and they come around and they actually do not want to go to the hospital. So we allow them to sign off because they actually improve that much. Because once you give a certain medication, they actually turn around for the better quite a bit. So a lot of those patient refusals actually include those where we treat and release on scene. Fire response, we had 375 fire emergencies, which is almost a 12% increase from 2023. But 2022 was our next highest call volume. It was 371. So we only had a little bit of a 1% increase from our next highest highest number. Our total fire losses was a little bit over $1.6 million. Causes of fires that we had last year, the big one was fireworks. Cooking materials was next, equipment failure, improper disposal of smoking materials. Some other type of fire runs that we have gone on is 154 automatic fire alarms, 22 smoke order investigations, 24 unauthorized burnings, and 30 hazardous materials. We did have one civilian death last year at a structure fire. We've had 5 civilian injuries, and we had 3 firefighters that were injured at fire-related incidences. Our training, we had over 4,300 hours of documented training. That includes anything from EMS, firefighter strategy and tactics, grain bin rescue, trench rescue, ice rescue, and just to name a few. Callbacks, we had 246 callbacks, which is a decrease of about 24%. Callbacks is when we start getting into multiple emergencies going on at the same time, structure fires where we need additional off-duty personnel. We'll call them back. We've actually had a decrease. Our response times, our fire response times, it's actually broke out into 2 different times. There's turnout time and travel time. Turnout time is from the time we get dispatched at the fire station and when the wheels on the rig start rolling. The benchmark for turnout times is 80 seconds. And that's not less than 90% of the time. Our actual turnout time was 3 minutes, 41 seconds. We did not meet that benchmark. We only met that benchmark maybe 14% of the time. Our travel time is from the time we get the call, or from the time we go en route, the wheels start rolling on the rigs, and time we show up on scene. The benchmark is at 4 minutes, not less than 90% of the time. Our 90 percentile time was 5 minutes and 59 seconds. We met the 4-minute target time almost 69% of the time. For EMS response time, the benchmark for turnout time was 90 seconds. We met that turnout time of 60 seconds, not quite 9% of the time. And our 90% turnout time for EMS was 2 minutes and 53 seconds. The travel time, the benchmark is 4 minutes, not less than 90% of the time. Our travel time was 5 minutes and 4 seconds. We met the travel time of 4 minutes, almost 77% of the time on EMS calls. Just to give you a little overview on what's going on so far this year, if our call volume stays the way it is right now, we're probably looking at almost a 7% increase in our call volume for 2025. January and February was a pretty extremely busy months. It was not common to have 15, 16, 17 runs in a day. So no, it's still early in the year. There's a lot of variables. We still have a lot of ups and downs over the course of the year, but if our call volume stays the same, we're looking at a 7% increase, almost 300 run increase for this year. Some other things that we got going on, we're hoping to receive our new ambulance at the end of this year. That was ordered a couple of years ago. We're hoping at the end of this year to receive that. Over the last few years, we did have a couple of resignations and a retirement, so we're in the process of hiring 3 additional firefighters. So hopefully you'll be seeing that over the next month or two. Back in January this year, we actually put out an RFP to hire an architect to start our design phase on the fire stations and satellite station in our current headquarters. We received 11 proposals, and we're in the process of evaluating those. And hopefully sometime in the next month or two, we'll be coming in front of you guys to hire an architect. With that, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Councilman Horner?
Yeah, but first, before I get to the question, I want to compliment you on your picture choice for page number 2 of that report. You know, I don't recognize that fireman.
Don't worry, he's not a fireman.
But anyways, you know, it's interesting to me whenever I'm looking at your map on where you're getting calls and, you know, how some of those are really standouts. And that really doesn't change that much from year to year, it doesn't seem like. And are all of those most of those calls are still for falls? Is that what I was reading, or did I read that incorrectly?
On the page that showing the district map and then showing all the runs to all the districts?
Yes, the 2024 fire/EMS emergencies by section of city.
Those are just showing, there's 2 lines. The maroon lines are EMS calls, and then the smaller blue lines are fire calls. That's just the number of calls to that particular part of town. Some of them probably do include falls and a lot of the other various emergencies that we go on. But falls is our majority EMS call that we go on daily.
Councilman Vaughn?
Yeah, as it relates to the national standard, I can certainly understand the transit time aspect and how we are compliant a certain percentage of the time. We're kind of handcuffed by our location the other time. The turnout time was kind of surprising to me. It seemed to be lower than I would have expected. Is there any significant setbacks that increase our turnout time the way it is compared to the national standard?
Really, fire station design plays an important part on turnout times, on where, like right now, where our bedrooms are in the middle of the night, get from there to the apparatus is going to take additional time because you have additional travel time within the station itself. So, you know, one of the things that when we're looking at evaluating these proposals for fire station design is putting turnout times in there, where the bedrooms are located, where certain areas are located. You want them near the apparatus space so you can get out on a call and a lot sooner than later.
Maybe safe to say that things that a modern station could accommodate and make feasible, those turnout
Oh,
times?
definitely, yeah.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Ganem?
It appears as though you were becoming an EMS station over the fire station. How many actual structural fires did you, I wasn't quite sure to get that out of, because there's so many.
We had 17 last year.
structural last year, okay.
Yep.
Then I do have another question, because we do charge for emergency medical. There's a billing that's sent up, or you go to a billing company. I from what I read here, could you explain the billing and the cost of an ambulance service, please?
Oh, sure. I think it was back in 2013 when we went to a third-party billing company. At that time was EMS Billing, and they were bought out by Quick Med Claims, which is our current billing company. For advanced life support, we respond and we start IVs. I believe it's $1,000 cost, and if there's different levels of ALS. So I think ALS 1's $1,000, ALS 2's maybe $850, the BLS calls maybe $800. And we also charge mileage from the time we pick up the patient and the time we go on location at the hospital. So there's a mileage charge in there. And then from there, our billing company, they look at the patient care report and they get all their information, how they're going to bill. We get patient demographic full sheets from the hospital. We attach that to the run, so that has a lot of insurance information on it, and that's how we bill. So then from there it goes to Quick Med Claims, and they take care of the rest.
Thank you very much. Appreciate knowing.
And they also, Quick Med Claims also does our fire billing. We do bill for fire calls, structure fires and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Lathrop?
In a conversation the other day, the question was brought up as to when you go out on an ambulance call, you also send a fire truck with them, or is it the smaller truck? What is the purpose of the fire truck going with the ambulance, I guess?
We use that for additional manpower. A lot of our equipment is heavier. We have a lot more additional specialized equipment we have to carry in. So we have those additional firefighters that help out with carrying our equipment, assisting carrying the patient, assisting with also when we get to advanced life support, starting IVs, giving medications, intubating patients. Those additional people actually play a very vital part in what we do in the patient care. And also there's been times where we also use that on motor vehicle accidents, because that fire engine carries a lot of our specialized equipment for motor vehicle accidents, stuff like that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief. Just page 2 is a picture of me on there. I think that's what you're referring to. So I just want to, thanks for, inviting me out. I wanted to go out into the fire department, and I had kind of this idea we're going to do mayor at work, and the fire department probably put me to work as much as any department did. I was definitely sweaty, but I do have a new appreciation. I put on the turnout gear, had the oxygen tank on, and we simulated basically crawling through a fire and the communication it takes in that process. And definitely was eye-opening for me to, and not even obviously in a real fire. I can't imagine how hard that is to navigate through a situation like that. So, and then, you know, get behind that hose, and no joke, I needed help with that hose. I mean, that thing was, it was a lot of pressure in that, and then getting out on a call, and just want to appreciate the time that you took for that. And again, gave me a great appreciation. I want to also commend you on a great year, because there was a lot that got done this year. When you look at all the hiring we had to do to really get caught up, and that's again a testament to you, Jody, Jennifer McDuffie, our HR. You know, adding those 2 new positions, getting up to 11 per shift. And I know, we're going to be having a list come forward to get us back up to fully staffed with some of the retirements that you had. And then hiring the assistant fire chief was another big accomplishment you had this year. And again, we are working toward that second station and making some good progress. So again, a big year, a lot accomplished, and that's a testament to you and your team, Chief. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. And Assistant Chief Parsons has been a great asset to the department. We're really starting to, one of his big chores was take over the training program and take it to new levels, because trying to get consistency between the shifts, because we never had that training officer in charge of that. So I'm looking forward to where we go with that. And another thing, I'm hoping that coming, we did apply for a grant this last December to replace all of our air packs. It's about 400,000. So I'm hoping in May, June, they start awarding that. So at some point, we'll be coming to you to accept that grant and moving forward.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Chief Byrne, Council? Thank you, Chief. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion to receive the 2024 Fremont Fire Department Annual Report. Councilman Sucro.
I'll make that motion to receive.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second.
Please vote.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 16 is resolution 2025-061, authorizing the mayor to execute contract with JEO for development of a Safe Streets for All comprehensive plan in the amount of $350,000. We'll have Troy Shaven with our city report.
Troy Shaven, city engineer. This is for Safe Streets for All comprehensive plan development. Last year, the city was awarded a $280,000 grant with a 25% match, which is $70,000. So the total amount is $350,000. Safe Streets for All is a program basically designed to look at the city of Fremont, their traffic corridors, both vehicular and pedestrian, sidewalks, linear trails, bike trails, stuff like that, and basically take what Fremont feels like it's their most important issues as far as traffic goes, and make improvements to them, and make improvements to them related to safety. The plan development itself, when completed, will actually open up doors for additional federal funding for those items that were developed in the plan that are priorities for the city of Fremont. The development of the plan includes multiple open house sessions for the public, preliminary report to the city council, where the council will be allowed to provide input, make changes, make recommendations. Then they'll go back and tailor the plan to what City of Fremont wants. The final plan is due on January of 2026, I believe, and then it will be implemented on April 3rd of 2026. We received five requests for proposals. We sent out requests for proposals, received 5 responses. The selection committee agreed that JEO had the best submittal, so we're requesting approval to award the Safe Streets for All comprehensive plan to JEO. I can take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions on this item? Councilman Horner.
Thank you, Troy, for the explanation on that, but can you tell me, whenever they're looking at this, what kind of things are they looking at? Do they take into account some of the types of non-automotive or non-motorized vehicles that are on the roads as well too these days?
It's pretty wide open. It's pretty, I don't want to say vague, but it's what Fremont thinks are the most vital issues as far as traffic movement in Fremont, and that includes pedestrian traffic. So it would look at bike trails, linear trails. It would look at maybe a shared streets for all, if that's the way we want to go. A lot of other communities have used it. The goal of the program is ultimately to get to a point where there are zero traffic fatalities, zero transportation-related fatalities in the city of Fremont is what the goal of the program is to move towards. A lot of other communities have used it to analyze maybe the areas in town that have the most accidents and see what can be done in those areas. If it's a signalization issue, if it's the road is not designed right, if it's, site issues, stuff like that. Other towns have used it strictly for non-vehicle related issues to make sure that pedestrians are allowed to move around town. For those that don't have vehicles, a lot of towns have used it to increase efficiencies. You could use it for signalization. Some people have used it to increase signalization. I know I get pretty mad when I sit at a light for too long, and if I get mad, maybe it's a little less safe when I go peeling out. So, really, it's a pretty broad, allowance for what we can do with it. I will give you my input right now. What some other communities are doing too is to use it to update infrastructure. Fremont right now, like a lot of other communities, like a lot of other municipalities in the country, we have aging infrastructure, specifically our traffic signals. We are having issue with older traffic signals, resulting in problems at intersections with lights going out, needing to have flashers, stuff like that. I would like to see at least some recommendation on this towards updating. Now, the recommendation would be to update the traffic signals. This would provide no funding towards the update, but what it would do is it would then allow us to apply for funds relating to updating the signals. This is a comprehensive plan that really opens up the door. Whatever is included in this comprehensive plan opens the door to any funding out there that would be available for the priorities that were given in the plan.
Councilman Vaughn?
Yeah, Troy, not necessarily a comment on this particular item, but just maybe a point for all of us to consider as we go forward here in the future with the changes at the federal level. I'm looking at where this grant money came from was a previous, presidential regime that's no longer in place. And I don't feel like that these are going to continue in the same manner, the same amounts that, and no one really knows that. That's kind of the whole vibe right now, if you will. So I guess I would just caution all of us to be a little bit careful here as we would take these dollars in. And then the idea is that opens the door for future dollars. Maybe those dollars aren't going to be there. So are we better off to pocket that $70,000 of our contribution to this? Or can we just take it and upgrade some traffic signals instead of doing a study? Those kind of broad comments. I don't want to derail this. I think this is, the right thing to do, but we got to be aware of the greater climate around us and just cautioned all.
And I completely agree with what you're saying about the funding. Nobody knows what's coming in the next, 4, 8 years, whatever. Certainly anybody in the municipal government is hearing funding is probably going to be one of the areas that goes away. This funding, having talked to the consultants, is paid for already. So if we were to agree to it, the money is there already. We would get the money, but certainly there is a $70,000 match that needs to be considered. The city is spending $70,000 out of the $350,000. 70 is the city's contribution.
Councilman Vaughn?
I mean, literally, could we just not do a study and utilize that money with our match to do signal upgrades that we need to do as a lot of residents in the community? That's enough money to get some signals done.
Signals are very, very expensive. I don't think a lot
Maybe
of people
intersection,
realize
but,
it would be enough to get maybe 1 or 2 signals up. But yes, I absolutely see where you're coming from and understand that.
thought.
I guess that's up to the council. It does open up doors later on, not knowing what the chances for the funding are. If we don't do it, my understanding is that this is part of like a tiered program. And my understanding is if you don't complete tier 1, you're not eligible for tier 2. Is tier 2 going to happen? I don't know. I mean, I prefer the magic 8 ball to a crystal ball, but my magic 8 ball is not with me right now, so I can't tell you what the future is. I'm sorry. If
Yeah, Brian,
$70,000 is a priority for the city council to use for infrastructure, something like that, I don't have a problem with that.
Troy, just to be clear on this, the Safe Streets for All grant is specifically for the study. So we have to use it specifically for that. The federal, our local share comes in, but we can't take the 4 stoplights.
Or whatever you
We
decide to
have to
do.
use the 280 for the study.
If you take the grant, you have to use the 280 for the Safe Streets for All study.
Councilman Ganem?
Understandably, we don't know which direction we're going as far as the federal government is concerned, but you do have to continue tier 1. At least it would give us a comprehensive plan and certainly address the safety for the public if we have an overall plan. So I feel it would be worthwhile going forward with this.
Okay, any other comments from the council? Councilwoman Lathrop?
And it sounds like too, with this plan, that we're having public input. Right, and so I'm sure the public really appreciates that, and we have a good
There'll be
basis.
web portal sessions.
Right,
You'll be
right.
allowed to send things in online and stuff like
Sure,
that too, so.
sure. So
It's
we have
it's
a-
really a plan that is developed by Fremont for Fremont. And
Mhm.
whatever we think our priorities are is what goes into the plan and could, funding pending
Mhm.
moves us in the direction that we could go.
Yeah, so I think it's a great idea because the public does have that input and can expand from there. And then they won't yell at Blair.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Okay, any additional comments from council? Councilman Vaughn?
Motion to approve.
Councilwoman Ganem?
Second,
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 17 is resolution 2025-063, authorizing the mayor to sign a change order document with Miko Henny in the amount of a credit $78,538. A staff report.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility Manager. This item here that we're bringing to you is a couple projects coming together. Fremont has been working with consultants on a stormwater drainage study for quite some time. One of the recommendations in that study was a overflow basin that would be connected to the First Street ditch. So they were planning on locating it on some property just south of the power plant. So then we were thinking, okay, we need to have this overflow study. We got the Miko Henny project going with the street parks and fleet maintenance building. What would happen if we had them use the dirt from that site rather than ship the dirt in? What kind of cost savings could we see? So we reached out to Miko Henny and asked them to give us an idea of what that would look like. So it ended up being a $132,563,000 credit to the cost of the fill work for the street parks and fleet maintenance building. Of that $132,563, $53,000 roughly of that is to remove the topsoil to get to the soil for fill. That portion would come out of the stormwater programs funding, and the full $132,000 would be applied as a deduct for the street building. So in a sense, we're asking for approval to have a net credit of $79,538 for this dirt work for the street building. but the building itself will see $132,000 credit. I hope that's not confusing.
Okay, questions? Councilman Von Baron.
If you're gonna confuse us totally, if you actually keep bringing projects like this to bring back money. to the
Well, yeah,
city. So
I got the
just
next item.
Please be careful.
Exactly.
Okay, any other questions? Comments from the public on this? Any additional comments from council? Councilman Jensen?
If there's no additional comments, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2025-063.
Councilwoman Ganem?
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
And now item 18, resolution 2025-062, authorizing the mayor to sign the change order document with Miko Henny in amount of $1,673,148. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Mayor, City Council, this is for adding an additional outbuilding to the campus, I guess, or the facility that we're getting ready to start building. When we went out for bids originally, we weren't sure really what the pricing was going to be. We knew we had about 70,000 square feet of under roofs, storage and shop and that kind of, and office areas. When we did that, we were looking at about 40,000, 38 to 40 is what we bid out. Once the prices came back, we realized we're well under budget. And so we asked Miko Henny to give us a price for an additional building, just like the other one without the wash bay in it, but the same layout and everything's the same. And they came back at $1,673,148. So this will give us roughly about 56,000. We understand that of that 70,000 we currently have, not all of that is, optimally used. It's a lot of old buildings and that. And so we feel very good that this would really suit the purposes for quite some time. We were told by Miko Henny that we had to, they're anticipating a price increase on this next month. So we would like to get this approved as soon as possible. They're looking at 5 to 8% increase. These buildings aren't getting cheaper, whether there's increases in this month or not. It's going to be more to build it at some other time. They're going to be already mobilized on site, and we would like to just get this built now if we could.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments from the council on this item? Councilman Peterson.
Yeah, I'm all for doing this. I think it's great, put everything under one roof and have a nice modern facility. You mentioned earlier that you were going to sell the old buildings downtown. Is that correct?
Correct. They're going to be sold. Yeah, I would assume so. Yes.
Regardless, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't plan on keeping
No, we
them
don't
for
plan on
extra
using them.
storage or any,
Yeah.
okay. And I know there's a lot of pockets within the city government. So at the sale of that, the cash generated from that sale, because obviously there's no lien on those buildings, is that going to go towards this? Or is it going in a different pocket?
So the sale of the street department building the proceeds from that would go back into the street department. So indirectly, yes.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure because I didn't know it was kind of this, there's a lot of plates in the air. So thank you very much.
Councilman Sukram.
Yeah, do you have any information at the Utility Infrastructure Board meeting, how that went?
Yeah, they voted 5-0 for recommending this.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, any comments from the public on this item? Okay, any additional comments from council? Councilman Vaughn.
If no other comments, motion to approve.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Now we'll move on to item 21, which is resolution 2025-060, approving the redevelopment agreement to include the use of tax increment financing for the RVR Bank redevelopment project. We've had a report from the applicant on this item. This was on the CDA, and so I take, are there any questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yes.
There's actually, the council received this afternoon an email that contained the restrictive covenants that are part of this whole project. And at this time, I'd offer them up to be entered into the record.
Take a motion to receive the covenants. Councilman Jensen.
Make that motion to receive.
Councilman Vaughn.
I will second.
You're good. All right, cast your votes on to receive.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
You have enough. Go, Joe, do you want to talk about this?
Sure. So as the mayor mentioned earlier, we had, you'd already heard and talked about the use of tax increment financing. This piece was actually something that was included in the purchase agreement. And there was a list of covenants that both property owners would agree to. The list came from the city originally, based on those principles that were developed with that North Downtown revitalization plan. And then RVR had some additions that they cared to make. Dave Mitchell worked with Travis Jacot back and forth so that we have the final document that you see today.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this item? Again, this was sent out to the council earlier today for review. Councilman Horner?
Just one question that I had in looking at some of the pictures, and I wasn't able to find it now, so I can't refer you to anything, but item number 3, construction, it's kind of the construction materials, you know, in item 3.a, it just says the use of wood facade materials is prohibited. And then one of the pictures, it looks like there's wood on the front of the building. What is that material? Does anybody know? Or is that just conceptual drawings?
Yeah, go ahead.
That would be a concrete-based material or a laminate-based material. It's not wood. It just looks like wood. Right, wood doesn't hold up. The reason is wood doesn't hold up.
Okay.
But this is a more permanent, durable material.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions, Councilman Horner? Yeah. Okay. Questions from the council on this item? Any comments from the public on this? All right, if there's no additional comments, I would take a motion. This would be to approve resolution 2025-060, approving the redevelopment agreement to include the use of tax increment financing for the RVR Bank redevelopment project and the declaration of covenants and restrictions to include that. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion on resolution 2025-060.
Councilman Jensen.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, I would take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Jensen.
Motion to adjourn.
And Councilman Sukram.
Second.
Cast your votes to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn carries 8-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
It was a change.
I understand. You did a great job. Thank you very much.